I think ASEC is an example of an idea that there was a perfect moment of convergence. And I think there's a very rich story about collaboration, almost a unique kind of collaboration between our religious congregations and the universities and colleges that we founded.
At one point, this idea for helping educate sisters in Africa began to blossom among us. We were very much aware because we were constantly being asked to educate African women religious on our campuses for free. We began to think there was a way that we could educate women religious in Africa on site in their countries.
I like to think of the beginning of ASEC as the widow's mite. And it was just a dream, a vision, a hope at that time. We really had no idea of the how we would do this. We just knew it was something we were being called to do at that moment. And we just went from those simple conversations and a little bit of resources. And here we are today. Because it was God's work, I think, of that moment, it really flourished and has become this really wonderful organization today.
You know, at one point in time, we became aware of just thinking about what happened in the United States when sisters got educated. You know, the great expansion in terms of mission through the Sisters Formation Conference. And some of us who were in leadership in our congregations were experiencing this directly through UISG, where we were meeting superiors of these congregations, and they would say, help us with education. And we're saying, this is a mutual thing. There's so much richness in your experiences, and how can we do this together so that whatever develops through this effort of the colleges and universities and the congregations would be guided by the African sisters, you know, from the very beginning, founded on the principle of mutuality and co-learning, and how can we do this together. So all of the expression of needs came from the African sisters. I think the finger of God was in it, because as Mary said, we had so little, but we believed in possibility, and we kept at it, and we persisted.
And that was it. We made the decision. We were going to do it. We invited anybody who wanted to join us to participate. And it ended up that it was Mary Wood and the Sister Servants of the Immaculate Heart of Mary, Chestnut Hill College and the Sisters of St. Joseph, Rosemont and the Sisters of the Holy Child Jesus, and Newman University and the Sisters of St. Francis. And so that was the nucleus. That's how it started.
One of the things that we were trying to discern was how could we best meet these needs? We just kept listening out of all these different things what's going to emerge. Because at the heart of their desires, I used to sit back sometimes and think, these women are on fire with mission. You know, we need to, as sister to sister, you know, make this move forward. We work directly with the leadership associations in each of the countries. And then we were assured that it was sisters were going to benefit. So I remember meeting with some bishops and a cardinal, and the question was, well, what are you going to do for the priests? And I said, Your Eminence, this is for the sisters. This is sister to sister. And we're going to, you know, what's available is going to be for them, and it's going to be what they tell us they need.
We were fortunate enough to have a provincial superior from Rosemont who had worked with the Sisters Education Fund at the Hilton Foundation in California and knew Steve Hilton. And he was coming to New York to have a meeting with other foundation heads. And one of the things they talked about at that meeting was how difficult it was to know that the money that was being spent in Africa was going where they intended it to go. And he came from that meeting to have lunch with us. And so he came with a predisposition because Sister Marcia certainly had prepared him for the meeting to hear what we had to say and how we might be willing to help with the expenditure of the funds in a responsible way. However, he had his own idea for a Sisters Leadership Development Initiative, where the sisters would be educated in finance, leadership, spirituality, governance of projects and that type of thing, learning how to do evaluations and turn in the results of what they had spent money on and how it had been productive, how it had been successful or not successful. Well, that wasn't the vision we had. We wanted to educate the sisters and make sure they got the higher education degrees that they needed in order to be able to do the ministries that they were being called to do. However, what he said to us was, if you do this for me, then I will consider giving you funding for what you want to do. So we went back and we thought about it, and we agreed that we should collaborate with him in order to make this happen, because we could see the benefits of this type of a program. And that's how it started. We got the first $2 million grant.
I remember it well. Marcia Sekel and I wrote the grant, and you know, we really had an opportunity to affect at that time five countries, and so we started out with Kenya and you know, Uganda, Tanzania, Nigeria, and Ghana. And I got the call from the Hilton Foundation that we had gotten that grant. And I cried in the airport. I'm standing there and the tears are rolling because I thought, this is just wonderful. The good that's going to happen from this.
There was this overwhelming sense, I think, through the whole effort of the providence of God. Marcia was at that table and connected us to Steve Hilton, how willing he was to adapt the monies from the foundation to our need and to include us in the vision for the future, and then all the people who around us helped in so many ways. You know, that saying of it takes a village.
I think one of the best things that we did was hire African sisters as executive
Absolutely.
directors.
In their own countries.
They, well, I mean, here too.
Here too.
Sister Jane.
Evolved into
and
that,
Sister
yeah.
Draru. Two brilliant, brilliant women who I think really put us on the map, whose
right.
energy was absolutely astounding. But once we had an executive director who could help us and give us more direction, and also travel back and forth constantly between the sites in Africa and the United States, something
And came from that
magical
culture.
came to be.
Came from
Yes,
that culture.
knew the culture,
It
knew the
was.
sisters.
It was our original focus again to do it with the sisters, not for the sisters
Yes.
of Africa.
Yeah,
Yes.
And that was a way in which we embodied that dream, I think.
The fact that they have a course specifically designed to prepare them for the experience is also helpful, because the students who are going from the different colleges or universities get to know each other ahead of time. And also, our faculty and staff have had the opportunity to participate in this.
And go together.
And go together.
Yes.
So that's building bridges between colleges and universities and staff and faculty as well, which I think is something we also really value. One of our students who went, Sister Catherine Miller tells the story, had been deeply affected, and she had been at Bigwa for a period of time giving service. And she came in during the summer after she graduated with an envelope, and she gave it to Sister Catherine. And in that envelope was all of her graduation money that she was contributing so that they could buy a cow at Bigwa. She came back the next year and gave another 500. One mother commented, "I sent my little girl to Africa. She came back a woman."
Yeah. I think what the service learning did is it gave our students a sense of the diversity even within a country. You know, they experienced, they saw segments where wealth was there, they saw abject poverty, and they saw the beauty of the families. A student that I had a conversation with, you know, was trying to, talk to a little boy who was very shy, and he would sit there. So she went over, she sat next to him. She was a nursing student, and she really wanted to do something with this little guy day after day. So she had a jar of bubbles, and she started to blow the bubbles. and she's blowing the bubbles. Pretty soon, that little guy's getting closer and closer. And eventually, bridges were built through bubbles.
And that was the purpose of the service learning, really, to have that human contact and put faces and names and places with the people of Africa. And it has done that, I think, for so many of our students.
And it's a powerful expression of what love really is, what the heart of the gospel really is. Aren't we lucky that we were able to be part of this as it has grown? What a blessing. Certainly empowerment and liberation of gifts, fulfillment of human potential for the sake of mission.
I think transformation. It has brought about a transformation in the sisters who have been educated, in those who have benefited from their education. I think we are affecting now and interacting with about 7 million people through the alumni of our program, which is incredible. It is changing lives. It is changing Africa.
I would just have to say the transformative power has been something we could never have imagined when it all began. We started with a vision, a dream, no resources, and not being clear about the how we were going to do anything. I really think that this was in the divine providence of God for these congregations in Africa and for the education of these wonderful women so that they could go forth and do their work. It's just an overwhelming story and humbling to think us and so many other people have played a small role in what has happened here.
Underlying this whole thing is that sense of, when people come with whatever they have, you create a synergy that can be transformative. I really look at the whole ASEC story as almost like a case study of how people who come together, bound by a desire, lending the best of what they have, great things can happen and continue to happen. That's ASEC.
When you think of that question about what was the impact, it's global because of the women who now have been educated through ASEC and have served throughout the world.
I have to say that in my present work with LCWR, I run into sisters all over this country, and they're like major superiors, and they'll say, "Oh, I was in ASEC." It's and I'm like breathless over it, that what they're doing and accomplishing from this little, as Mary says, the widow's mite.
The widow's mite.
And the sisters who have benefited from ASEC have the skills and the passion to address the most urgent of needs. They're on the edge of everything. I think that kind of impact of the sisters, because of their education, because of their spirituality, because of their passion for mission, as continuing to impact all the countries where they are. And I see this shifting as well, much more to the leadership being African in every capacity, and moving forward in that way.
Our hopes would be that the seeds that have been planted through the work we've done through ASEC would just continue to grow and develop, and that those sisters will pass on to the next generation, I think, their vision and whatever they see in front of them and the opportunities that come to them now. I'm just filled with awe about what they have done and optimistic about the next 25 years. I wish I could be here to see the impact that they will have on the world because they have already had such a tremendous impact. I think that's one of the benefits of this. It is a model that has worked and can work in many places around the globe.
So dream your dreams, because they happen.
They do.